Hannah is a student who's here, who is a member of the Young Leaders Advisory Group, also continuing the theme about improvement of services, and she's going to talk to us.
Hi, I was diagnosed at the age of 2 with type 1 diabetes, and my GP straight away recognised the symptoms. I was very lucky as a young child, the adults surrounding me took on the burden of my diabetes. And I can't really remember diabetes ever impacting on my childhood. My primary school was a brilliant example of how schools should treat children with diabetes, and we could not have asked for more from them. From day one, they were great. As unlike many children nowadays, I was on mixed ARD, so I never had to inject or carb count in school. However, before I started primary school, and then regularly throughout my years there, the community nurse would come in and teach the school how to deal with hypos and how I need to eat set amounts at set times. This meant that all teachers felt confident in the management of my diabetes. I never once had a problem there. In the staff room, there's always a sheet informing them of my name, my class, and the symptoms of hypo, so any substitute teacher also knew. Alongside this, my classmates from the age of 4 were taught about type 1 and how to spot hypo if it occurred. They always went the extra mile, and I was never once excluded from taking part in school trips, even to the point that the dinner ladies out of their own money would buy me sugar-free desserts, so I never felt left out. This allowed me to grow up with a great attitude to diabetes, and I never resented it throughout my primary school years. In complete contrast, my high school experience was a big reason why I rebelled against my diabetes. Unlike my primary school, they did with me and still do with other diabetics, refused to have a DSN come in and teach them about how to deal with hypos. I had numerous problems with them to the point my diabetes team and my parents had to step in on numerous occasions as it was verging on bullying. I was told to get off my phone and given attention after school club when I was actually in the low 2s and trying to phone my mum because I was so confused I couldn't figure out the way to get out. Even worse, this teacher taught me for over 2 years, and I've been informed that all teachers knew about my diabetes and about my symptoms. I repeatedly had to face comments of teachers that included being told God wanted me to die and that's why I was given diabetes, and to inject insulin was going against God's plan. I was told I was a burden on teaching staff and it wasn't their job to look after me. Because of one specific teacher who made comments to me that made me feel so ashamed of my diabetes, I started skipping injections, and it was only because my doctor picked up on high sugars at tea that was sorted out. And because my team had phoned up the school, I was then singled out by teachers throughout the school because I got them in trouble. Because of their refusal, despite repeated offers to let a nurse come in and teach me about hypos, this led me I passed out from hypo, and I was unconscious for over half an hour with no hypo treatment. And this was despite my friends screaming at them I was diabetic and an ambulance needed to be called. When I finally came round, I was confused and couldn't even answer simple questions. I'd hit my head on a metal bar as well, and despite this I was allowed to walk home unaccompanied. My high school illustrated just how important it is to have a treatment plan drawn up by the diabetes team, the parents, the patient and the school itself. I'm now in college, and because there's quite a few diabetics in college, they're absolutely fantastic at dealing with it. They're very understanding about me missing lessons, and within 2 days of arriving at college, I was called up to the first aid's office so they could enter my specific symptoms of hypo, which informed all teachers that I basically turned into an absolute brat. This was such a welcome relief after high school to have teachers and friends who understood, and as a result, I'm a lot more confident in my diabetes and therefore a lot more confident in myself. I've been very lucky that throughout the past 16 years, I've had diabetes teams I've got on really well with. And for me, that's something that's so underestimated. To me, being able to have a laugh with my team is something that's as important as the knowledge. When I was younger, we had a great support group, and we often were involved with Diabetes UK holidays, as well as having support groups every month. I attribute my attitude with knowing other diabetics. This also gave a great help to my parents, who, as we have no family history of type 1, we had meeting other diabetics, meeting other parents, and structured education. Looking back to my care though, there were certain areas that were lacking. I was only seen every 6 months by a consultant. I wasn't given any treatment on basal bolus until around the age of 11, and to my memory it was a couple of visits from the community nurse and a lot of leaflets and nothing tailored specifically to my age. It was presented as a bad change, and all I heard was I would have to do 4 injections a day instead of 2. Not about all the benefits I now know about it being more flexible. All but one of my team up until the age of about 13, 14 weren't diabetes specialists, and it meant that I never got the specialist care I have now. I would, however, credit all my health team throughout my diagnosis was that I've always received the checks I should, including the eye screen and celiac screen, etc. I touched on earlier about rebelling as a young teenager with my diabetes, and after going on basal bolus as a 12-year-old and then the issues with school, I never took care of it. I would only do 1 blood count test a day, I would often skip injections or when I was with my friends, and then the rest of the injections I'd get a dose of. By the time I was 15, I was paying for this. My eyes were starting to show background changes and my A1C was around 11%. At this point, I basically got a massive kick up the backside and got told to get myself sorted. And I would have to say that my team now are the most amazing team I could wish for. They go the extra mile constantly, and I'm quite certain without them that diabetes would have killed me. They're available by email or phone throughout the day. If I have a problem, my doctor always fits me in. My DSN must actually be sick of the sight of me because for the past 2 years, she's seen me at least every month, often more, to help try and stabilise my sugars. Since I got my new team, I've had structured education on carb counting and learned how to manage my own diabetes, and as a result, completely turned my care around to the point my A1C in October was 7.4, and all the background changes have now been reversed. However, there's been a lot of problems, specifically with the PCT. As my nurse and doctor are employed by the different people, there's been no redesign of services in response to the best practice tariff. My team are desperately overstretched, and with the amount of newly diagnosed patients coming in, something's going to give. Patients at a neighbouring hospital haven't seen a doctor or nurse in over 6 months because there's just no specialists there. At my hospital, clinics are always running late, and we make jokes about this constantly, but it's simply because my doctor doesn't have enough time to give each patient the care they need. My DSN can only be reactive instead of proactive. She's going around families in the community, treating like high sugars, illness, etc., but doesn't have the time to set up routine follow-up or structured education. My team are great, but they can't possibly split themselves in half, and we are actually in the process of complaining to the PCT over the funding. We have no funded CGM in the Children's Department, and naturally the support group is raising money at the moment to fund one because we believe it's such an essential part to give us more information. I had a 2-year fight to get the pump with the PCT, who had been extremely slow in passing guidelines, even though me and other children desperately needed one. It wasn't until my mum phoned up, complained, threatened to go to the newspaper, and then got the local MP involved, that within a week they then passed the guidelines. In my opinion, that's an absolute disgrace. I should not have to threaten my PCT with bad publicity to get the medical treatment I need. At the end of the day, it's not going to be them who suffer, it's not going to be the doctor or nurses who suffer, it's going to be the children, it's going to be us 10, 20 years down the line who end up with complications. And I don't think the PCT realises. They are looking for a short-term solution to a long-term problem at the moment. Before I got my pump, my quality of life was so low. I had orphanomia of over 25 millimole every morning, but was having up to 70 hypos in 2 months. Many of these were in the ones. My life was revolving around getting some semblance of control of my blood counts, and as a result I ended up with depression. In 16 years of having diabetes, this was the only time I felt like this, and I felt hopeless. I completely isolated myself from my friends. I didn't want to do anything, to the point I contemplated suicide. This brings me on to my next point, that I know is not just an issue with me, but across the country in both paediatric and adult care, is a lack of psychological help. Let's face it, diabetes is damn hard to deal with every single day. It is an absolutely relentless condition, but it seems to be overlooked constantly. When I also had depression, I was also suffering from panic attacks, going in the paediatric ward, our outpatients in my hospital. And when I started on the pump, I had over 3 panic attacks just trying to get near the ward. And perhaps one of the reasons I didn't get any psychological help was, although I had told my GP about this, I never revealed it to my specialist team because I felt like I let them down. I've had diabetes 16 years, and yet the panic attacks didn't set until 14 years after diagnosis. And I've heard of this happening before, where people are offered counselling at diagnosis, but people fail to realise that it can happen years and years after diagnosis. The social media aspect of the work I do was something that really helped me with this. I set on my blog in the middle of having depression, and being able to write my feelings out and was something that really helped me, because instead of bottling it all up, I was getting out, and people interacting with healthcare professionals and other type 1s really helped me with this. The panic attacks especially, It wasn't until a nurse on Twitter explained that a lot of patients who had bad accidents often developed a fear of hospitals that it started to make sense to me. I realised that I was associating paediatrics with a horse riding accident I'd had in 2011 when I spent a week in high dependency. This explanation for me meant I could overcome my fear of paediatrics, and since that I've never had a panic attack going near the ward or the outpatients. Although my blood pressure is absolutely sky high every single time I go. Apparently I'm making my doctor look bad with that. I don't want to end on a bad note, and there are days it is hard. There are days when I still get upset about having diabetes, where for all the will in the world, your blood sugars will never go perfect. But I'm so grateful for the opportunities diabetes has offered me. Things like speaking at this conference, I've been able to travel around the country as a young leader. And also events like the one Selnovo Pump ran, which meant I was taught to row by Steve Redgrave. And for me, this is an incredible opportunity for a 17-year-old to do. Not many 17-year-olds could say they've done all that. And the thing that I've taken out, the most positive thing I've taken out of having diabetes, is I've met the most amazing friends I could have really wished for.